Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday meditation gathering. I'm so glad you're all here to share this time together. This week we have Ian Patrick, who will lead us in meditation, and then we have 20 minutes of silence. After that, we'll open it up for sharing, and we end at 10:45. Over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Dan. Lovely to be back here leading another meditation this morning. I think this is my fourth. Okay, so I'm going to read, we're going to do a section which you may have done before. I didn't go back to check whether anyone's done it recently, but it's the simplicity of salvation, which is the first section of chapter 31. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've edited the section a bit. I'm just going to do the good bits, okay? And when I get to the end of that, I'll repeat the last couple of paragraphs slowly for you to consider each line, and then that'll be the beginning of the meditation itself, okay? So firstly, the reading will go through the reading at normal pace, and then just repeat the last two paragraphs at slow pace. Okay, so the simplicity of salvation. How simple is salvation? All it says is what was never true is not true now and never will be. The impossible has not occurred and can have no effect. That is talking about the separation, obviously. And that is all. Can this be hard to learn by anyone who wants it to be true? Why then do you persist in learning not such simple things? There is a reason, but confuse it not with difficulty in the simple things salvation asks you learn. Salvation teaches but the very obvious, and it merely goes from one apparent lesson to the next, in easy steps that lead you gently from one to another, with no strain at all. This cannot be confusing, yet you are confused. For somehow you believe that what is totally confused, in other words, this world of complexity and confusion, is easier to learn and understand. What you have taught yourself is such a giant learning feat, it is indeed incredible. But you accomplished it because you wanted to, and did not pause in diligence to judge it hard to learn or too complex to grasp. So in other words, we accept this world and all its perplexity as being what's true. No one who understands what you have learned, how carefully you learned it, and the pains to which you went to practice and to repeat the lessons endlessly in every form you could conceive of them, could ever doubt the power of your learning skill. Who could maintain that lessons such as these are easy? Yet you have learned more than this. You have continued taking every step, however difficult, until a world was built that suited you. And every lesson that you make up, and every lesson that makes up the world arises from the first accomplishment of learning, the separation. An enormity so great, the Holy Spirit's voice seems small and still before its magnitude. The world began with one strange lesson, separation again, powerful enough to render God forgotten and his son an alien to himself. You who have taught yourself the Son of God is guilty, say not that you cannot learn the simple things salvation teaches you. Yet you will learn them, for their learning is the only purpose for your learning skill that the Holy Spirit sees in all the world. His simple lessons in forgiveness have the power mightier than yours. They have power mightier than yours because they call from God and from yourself to you. It is a little voice, so small and still it cannot arise above the senseless noise of sounds that have no meaning. God willed not his son forget, and the power of his will is in the voice that speaks for him. The lessons to be learned are only two. Each has its outcome in a different world. and each would follow surely from its source. The certain outcome of the lesson that God's Son is guilty is the world you see. It is a world of terror and despair, nor is there any hope of happiness. There is no plan for safety you can make that ever will succeed. There is no joy that you can seek for here and hope to find it. Yet, this is not the only outcome which your learning can produce. The outcome of the lesson that God's Son is guiltless is a world in which there is no fear, and everything is lit with hope and sparkles with a gentle friendship. Nothing but calls to you in a soft appeal to be your friend, and let it join with you. And you will understand it was this call that everyone and everything within the world has always made. The fear of God results surely from the lesson that his Son is guilty, as God's love must be remembered when he learns innocence. For hate must father fear, and look upon its father as itself. How wrong you are to fail to hear the call that echoes past each seeming call to death, that stings behind each murderous attack, and pleads that love restore a dying world. You do not understand who calls to you beyond each form of hate, each call to war. Yet you will recognize him as you give him answer in the language that is called, in other words, love. He will appear when you have answered him, and you will know in him that God is love. What is temptation but a wish to make the wrong decision on what you would learn and have an outcome that you do not want? It is the recognition that it is a state of mind unwanted that becomes the means whereby choice is reassessed. Another outcome seems to be preferred. You are deceived if you believe you want disaster and disunity and pain. Hear not the call for this within yourself, but listen rather to the deeper call beyond it that appeals for peace and joy. And all the world will give you peace and joy. Let us be still an instant and forget all things we ever learned, all thoughts we had, and every preconception that what we hold of what things mean and what their purpose is. Let us remember not our own ideas of what the world is for. We do not know. Let every image held of everyone be loosened from our minds and swept away. Be innocent of judgment, unaware of any thoughts of evil or of good that ever crossed your mind of anyone. Now do you know him not, but you are free to learn of him and learn of him anew. Now is he born again to you, and you are born again to him, without the past that sentenced him to die, and you with him. Now is he free to live as you are free, because ancient learning passed away and left a place for truth to be reborn. So, as I said, I'll now repeat the final two paragraphs slowly. So I suggest you just reflect on the words that I read and go into the meditation. So it's a famous two paragraphs, really. Let us be still an instant and forget all things we ever learned, all thoughts we had, and every preconception that what we hold of what things mean and what their purpose is. Let us remember not our own ideas of what the world is for. we do not know. Let every image held of everyone be loosened from our mind and swept away. Be innocent of judgment, unaware of any thought of evil or of good that ever crossed your mind of anyone. Now do you know him not, but you are free to learn of him and learn of him anew. Now is he born again to you, and you are born again to him, without the past that sentenced him to die, and you with him. Now is he free to live as you are free, because an ancient learning passed away and left a place for truth to be reborn.
Open your eyes slowly and come back into the room. We have 13 minutes left for sharing your reflections and your questions. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand or use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen, and I'll invite you to take yourself off mute. And if you'd like to ask Ian a question or comment with confidentiality, put your message in the chat function at the bottom of the screen, and I'll read it out. Anthony.
Hi. The penultimate paragraph, let us be still an instant, forget all things we ever learnt, etc. It's an interesting concept, one I've been thinking about, because 80% of the day, maybe 90% of the day, I still feel separation. And, you know, I want it all. I want it all now. I think most of us do. Yet, if we do exactly what that paragraph says, we're going to end up like Byron Katie was, just totally forgetting everything, not even knowing who you are. Very difficult thing to reconcile, really, because on one hand, we have this binary choice, you know, either to see the world through our own projections or to see the world as it truly is. And it's a never-ending conundrum for me. And sometimes I get quite, well, not depressed, well, maybe I do, but, you know, I just want to have a stronger connection. And yeah, I probably have to try harder and listen harder and look harder. I just don't know. That's my thought, and it's one that I've been struggling with these last few days.
Well, if I should comment, yeah, I think it's a process, Anthony. I don't think like overnight you're suddenly going to forget your name and where you live and stuff like that. It's not about that. But nevertheless, you know, we have chosen this world opposed to reality, and it's gradually awakening to reality. I suppose ultimately, when we get there, when we finally go home, we will indeed forget who we are, and where we live, and what our name is, and what we do for a living, and all that stuff. Because it will no longer be relevant. It will no longer matter. We won't be here. We'll be home. But in the meantime, those things are quite useful, I think. So we're not going to be. There's another line in the course where it says, "Fear not. You're going to be what is it? Thrown in." I can't remember the exact line. Fear not. You're going to be thrown into reality. It's the process of awakening. That's why the word is awakening. The process, it implies the process.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, the whole idea of 365 lessons is to do it gradually and not one sudden shock, which
Right.
one or two people do experience. We're having a debate yesterday with some friends on this very subject of, is it good to have this sudden awakening like some people have, like Byron Katie, or is it better just to do it slowly and gradually? And, you know, when does separation, when is it gone? Because even it would seem, even in the other world, that there are still degrees of separation, if that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, there are people who still know who they are, and you know, one's souls, as it were, soul groups and so on. Perhaps I shouldn't go into so much detail, but you know, to me, it seems that there are still degrees of separation even there, and that the ultimate joining with God, perhaps, is that very final step when all that is comes back together as one, which is a very different thing from simply shedding this particular suit of clothes and going back to the non-physical world. I don't know, it just, there seems to be everything by degrees and nothing is black or white, but it's like shades of gray all the way to the ultimate final step.
I think most people are not ready for a sudden awakening. And I don't know Byron Katie's story, actually. Maybe I should read it. But I don't think most people are ready for that kind of thing. And if somehow they're still around and say, well, I've been to the other side, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever phrase you want to use, and there's still separation there, I'd say that's not reality. Because there's no separation of any kind in heaven, in reality. I think perhaps the attachment to the idea of separation is that strong that that we do hang on to it for a long time, even almost to the absolute end, and finally, well. But yeah, people do have phases of awareness and enlightenment, and then they can report that to the rest of us, which is helpful to us.
Thank you.
They're
Yeah.
in the process.
Ian, where was that reading from?
Chapter 31, the first section.
Oh, great, thank you. Roman, would you like to share?
Yes, thank you very much. I was reminded of the dream I once had. I always had a very strange opinion of myself, some kind of a hard nutcase, hard drinking, hard this, hard that, and love just wasn't part of the game. And I woke up one morning in a cold sweat. And it was very much like a Shakespearean dream, a play, where the Shakespeare says that all the world's a stage and we are all actors in it. And I had been revealed, not the person that I thought I was, but as a kind, gentle, loving person. And when I woke up, eventually, when I did eventually wake from when I would eventually wake from the dream, all the people that I had ever met would all be lined up to take a bow. And I thought, gosh, everybody I had met have all been paid actors just to expose me as the person I was. And as I say, I was a cold sweat. I said, no, this cannot be. This cannot possibly be. I'm the person I think I am. But as life has progressed since then, and from that meditation, that fear was absolutely unfounded. But from that dream, I realized now that if I paid more attention to it, I could have saved myself an awful lot of hassle, because that's exactly what we all are. As the dream revealed, not only was I a very nice, gentle, kind, loving God's son, so was everybody else. They were all revealed as God's sons as well. So it's just a loving acceptance that is what I am. And I don't worry about it anymore. And everybody in the world is the same. Every single person, every living thing, they're all kind, no matter what I thought. It's just, everything is love. And you just get on with your life in this world. And it does, the whole world's a stage, and we're all actors in it. And it's lovely. We're just getting better. Thank you.
That's a great dream, Norman. That's quite lovely. And of course, what you're quoting there is Shakespeare. So I think he'd had that dream as well. All the world's a stage and we're other actors. And, when you look at, consider the line in that, was it full of sound and fury, signifying nothing? You look at that from the context of A Course in Miracles, that hits the nail on the head, really. The full world is full of sound and fury, signifies nothing.
Catherine, would you like to share?
Yeah, I was just what I quite like to do with the course tells us that blaming other or blaming self comes to the same thing, but its wording tends to emphasize blame of and therefore forgiveness of the other. So I just thought I'd read one of the paragraphs, changing it to I. So just to start by saying thank you, Ian, for the meditation. Be innocent of your judgment of yourself, unaware of any thought of evil you have about yourself, or any thought of good that ever crossed your mind about yourself. In the moment when you think those thoughts, you are not knowing yourself, but you are free to learn of yourself and learn of yourself anew. Now you are born again to yourself, and you are born again. Oh no, I missed that bit out. Now you are born again to yourself, without the past that sentenced you to die. Now you are free to live as you are free, because an ancient learning passed away and left a place for the truth about yourself to be reborn. Yeah, so I find it quite interesting to change that around. I often get something, and of course the course tells us that everything is guilt projected out, so it kind of makes sense to me to often play with forgiveness of self rather than looking out. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. Yeah, I think you can go through the whole course and put the word I and me in everywhere. If it helps to make it more personal to you, to me. But I guess, well, forgiveness of others is forgiveness of self. Forgiveness of self is forgiveness of others. So actually, you could say it makes no difference. But whatever is easier for us to absorb and make real for ourselves.
Yeah, for some people here that might have landed exactly the same, but for others of us that will have landed more powerfully.
Thank you.
Okay, we've come to the end of our time together. Take yourself off mute, show your appreciation to Ian. Thank you, Ian, that was wonderful.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you very much. That was very
Thank you,
nice.
Ian.
Ian. Thank you so much for
Thank you
the
very much.
network. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.